Hey, good morning. I just wanted to talk a little bit about my experience with the Sean Studies program. This is my first time using the Sean Studies. I am a MCAT retaker. The first time I took the MCAT did not go well. I kind of felt rushed into taking the MCAT. The second time I took it, I've taken it 3 times now. The second time I took it, I just didn't really know how to properly study for the MCAT. I had the materials to study, that being all the AAMC materials, but I didn't know how to properly digest that material to optimize on my MCAT. So when I found out about Sean Studies and the way that their program was broken down, via the cars section, the psych-soc section, and the chem-phys section, and like dynamic strategies and how to properly tackle these various areas, I thought it would actually be more optimal for me because it didn't seem like it was a content issue for me. It seemed more strategy based, and that's solely what Sean Studies is based on. So initially, I took a diagnostic exam from Kaplan, and I think everybody knows that Kaplan is notoriously a little more difficult than the actual MCAT. So when I took that exam, I believe I got like a 487. That was like a few months out. So when I first started. And then I started Sean Studies, and I would go over the Retakers study plan. I would look at the dynamic strategies portals that were on the Sean Studies website. And over time, it kind of enabled me to not look at the exam so objectively. I looked at it a lot more critically, and it allowed me to focus on areas that would optimize my score very fast. So I think I took another Kaplan exam before I did all my AAMC material, and I got a 502, and that was in less than a week, from a 487 to a 502. I continued doing the same process, going through the cars passages and how to properly dissect the cars passages. Cars section for me was still the hardest. I most recently took my MCAT. But the card section for me was still difficult, but it did allow me to see things that were common themes, like red alert words, which is a big thing they talk about, things that kind of change tone within passages that helps you kind of find a good theme. And once you get the theme of a passage, you can pretty much answer all the questions that they ask you following the passage. The Chem section was a section that I was low on in all of my previous MCATs. But then that became one of my highest following the Sean Study strategies. Once I realized, I think I was thinking about the Chem section a little too in depth rather than just looking at exactly what the passage is asking, because most times, we've done all of the content review. So at this point, it's kind of just like seeing what's in the passage and answering the question that's exactly being asked, not anything extraneous. So once I did that and I got the 502, I realized that the Sean Studies was actually helping me significantly. And I think 3 days later, I took a sample test for the AAMC, and I got a 504. It wasn't too big of a jump from the 502 to the 504, but it was a jump. And again, that was in, I think, 4 days after I took my second Kaplan. Then I would review that, watch Sean Studies again, in areas in which I was deficient in. And it was still kind of the chem phys and the cars. The psych social and the biochem kind of were there. Then it jumped up to a 508 on my first AAMC full length. And then I took a next step exam, I think 4 days after that, and I got a 510. And then I took another AAMC full length exam about 2 days after that. 3 days after that, because I reviewed for 2 days, and I got a 507. So to most people, they would say that those were big jumps from a 487 to a 510. And I was confident that using the Sean Studies has helped me get to that point. I think it was solely off of the Sean Studies, actually, because the content review was there, but I just didn't know really how to tackle the exam. And the Sean Studies, definitely helped me with that a lot during this prep. when I took my actual exam, I was a lot more calm this time around than I was previously. And I don't know if it was directly correlated to the Sean studies, but it did enable me to remain calm because I've seen every way that the questions could be asked, and I've seen every way that you should interpret the questions to optimally answer the questions. I definitely think Sean's study helped me out a lot. Obviously, I'm just waiting now for my exam grade, which comes out in a month. But I don't think I would have gotten this far this time around, and it would have been as confident this time around if it wasn't for Sean's studies. It definitely helped me out a lot. I would recommend it to anybody who's a retaker or taking the MCAT for the first time because it breaks down the proper way to look at passages. It's not so much the content review. The content review is something we have to kind of do on our own and, read through and the things you learn through undergrad. But the Sean studies really breaks down the exam and the proper way to tackle various sections on the exam to the point where you're going through questions so fluid you don't even realize you finished a section, and you finish the section with good scores. So I would recommend Sean studies because it increased my prep exams from a 487 to about a 510.